Hello and welcome to the I Bricked It Up YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, I'm glad you're here, and if you've been here before, I'm glad you're back. This is one of my favorite MOCs I've ever made. It's a big rig truck. It's kind of based on a Peterson big rig. I call this one the Big Green Machine. This MOC is 8 studs wide and is actually based on a 10 stud wide model that I made a while back, which was based on a MOC made by Brickhead07 on Rebrickable. And his build took inspiration from a MOC made by Speedhun Creations, which leads all the way back to mine. This truck is actually very versatile, and I've used it as a basis to make several others, including this blue one and this black one that I called Midnight Star. I've even used the chassis of this truck to make city scale versions of the old highway rig and giant truck from the Model Team line. And on top of that, I even made a car transporter trailer for it. In this video, I'm just going to show you how to build the green truck itself, but if it's something that you're interested in, let me know down in the comments, and I might even make a video tutorial for the trailer itself. I'm going to include links to Brickhead07 and Speedhun Creations Rebrickable MOCs down in the description. Sit back, enjoy the tutorial, and as always, a link to the parts list and full PDF instructions are in the description below. If you want access to the PDF instructions for all of my MOCs, consider joining my Patreon page. There you'll find hundreds of PDF instruction files. Of course, just you being here watching the video means a lot, so thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it. I use Technic bricks and pins on the chassis in order to make it as sturdy as possible. Rather than stacking a bunch of plates and bricks, the Technic pieces form a much more sturdy foundation, which will better support the weight of the truck. The 1x1 modified plate with bar holder is going to be used to hold a hose later in the build. And here we're going to bulk up the back of the truck a little bit using plates and tiles. Interlocking them on top of the studs of the Technic beams is actually going to help make the whole thing very robust. So it's not going to come apart very easily once we're done building. The taillight design I used here is straight off of Brickhead07's original MOC. I really liked it. It looks really good, so I wanted to use it, and I also want to give him a big shout out for being an awesome designer. And a pretty cool guy too. I've talked to him a couple times. He's really nice and helpful. When I first started building MOCs, it was really cool of him to give me the go-ahead to make an upsized version of his design. A lot of designers out there are actually very helpful if you reach out to him. Definitely check out his Rebrickable page. He has lots of great designs, especially if you're into classic 50s and 60s American vehicles. The fifth wheel uses a 2x2 round plate with a Technic axle. This will allow the car transporter trailer or any other trailer that you build to connect to it, so long as you are using the same connection types. The Technic axles are 7 studs wide to allow the gray bushing to go on the outside of the wheel. I thought it looked cool to have a little bit more color on the vehicle, but you could use a 6 stud long axle if you wanted. I want to try to figure out a way to stack the tires on the back so that they're actually double wide, but I haven't been able to figure it out yet. If you had any suggestions for how to do that without making the back of the build too flimsy, I'd love to hear them. And with the mud flaps, we're basically done with the chassis. Like I said before, I've used the same chassis several times, just changed the colors of the cab, and it's a brand new build. I was actually inspired for the livery by the official LEGO set 60305. It's a car transporter. It's green, lime, and white, and it looks great. But it wasn't quite fancy enough, so I decided to build my own version. I did use some of the pieces from the original LEGO set, but mostly just some panels and stickers. But considering the original set has 342 parts, and this has about 1100, you'll definitely need to grab some extra bricks if you want to build this version. The fuel tanks and steps are offset a little bit, so it looks really good leading up to the body. And then the 2x2 tile adds a good bit of color blocking to the front fenders. Here we're going to stack a bunch of white and different shades of green plates to start forming the livery of the truck. To me, it almost has a kind of digital camo look. I've built this truck in blue, black, and even a red and white Target version that's sadly no longer together. What color would you build it in? Funny story about the yellowish green tiles, I originally only used those because I didn't have any lime green ones at the time, but in the end I think it looks great. It adds a little bit more color to the final model and I really like it. The spare fuel tank was actually a suggestion by somebody and is made up of just a couple round plates, a 1x1 round brick, and a round tile. A lot of times the most basic pieces actually look the best. Alright, keep stacking plates for a minute. This submodel that we're making here is actually going to support the grille and front bumper later on in the build. Submodels are a really great way of breaking up larger builds into smaller pieces. This is awesome if you're going to try to make instructions or if you're going to try to build something again later. Definitely utilize submodels as a tool for you to build with, just like Lego bricks. Similar to the 1x1 yellowish green tiles, originally I only used the 2x2 slope pieces in bright green because I didn't have them in regular green. But again, I really liked the way it looked, so I kept it, and I think the final model looks even better for it. Here we're going to start building up the interior of the cab, which is admittedly a little sparse, but I did include an energy drink for the driver to have on long trips. It would have been cool if I could have incorporated a kind of sleeper cab on this, but it's tough at this smaller scale. I have done a sleeper cab on a larger scale 10 wide truck, and it turned out really good. We're going to keep stacking plates, and we're also going to start using some modified bricks with studs on the side that are going to hold up the sides of the cab later. I've used them a million times before and I'll use them a million times again. The minifig roller skates make awesome door handle pieces. And we're going to use some tiles here so that we can build the windows with some fun snot techniques. Snot means studs not on top. We're going to use some brackets and translucent panels to make the windows. Stack some more modified bricks here to give the sides a little bit more support. The reflector on the back is just a translucent cheese slope attached to a 1x1 bracket. And we're going to tile off the top so that the roof can be removed. Now this hose is actually just a regular Lego hose with the tabs that can be removed. So if you're going to make it, make sure you have the right piece. We're going to add a lime green stripe to the front. And those jumper plates from earlier are going to help hold the front windows in place. The modified brick will help with the grille. Just a couple more green plates here and we're almost done with this section. Tile off the front of the cab so that we can build the front windows, and then we're going to build the front windows using some more fun snot techniques. When it came to designing the front windows, it was actually a bit of a challenge because I needed it to be 6 studs wide in order to fit the same width of the cab, and I wanted to add mirrors on the side. And none of Lego's windows really have the connection points on the side that I needed. So using one of Lego's windows that's designed for a vehicle this width was kind of out of the question. So I needed to design something myself. The cab is 6 studs wide, which is the equivalent of 15 plates stacked on top of each other. So if I was going to build it sideways, I needed the length of it to be 15 plates. The translucent panels are the same as 6 plates stacked on top of each other, so that's 12 with the 2 of them. And then with the tiles in order to hold the windows, that's 14, but I needed 1 more plate and a way to hold the windows in place. Fortunately, that same 1x1 modified plate from earlier is 1 plate wide and has 2 stud connections coming off of the bar holder. So using that plate allowed me to hold the 2 windows in place and match the width of the cab. The hood is made up using some simple arch pieces. I actually have about 50 or 60 of these green arches from when I was little. When I was younger, I bought a whole bunch of the flash speeders from episode 1 and the Red Planet Cruiser from the Life on Mars line and would combine them into these kind of like 2-legged mechs. I had a whole army of them. I probably had about 7 or 8 of them. So now I have a whole bunch of these pieces just lying around and I'm always looking for an excuse to use them. Are there any parts that you have way too many of that you try to use all the time? The grill is made up of some pretty simple plates and modified grill tiles. But for the headlights, I'm really happy with the way I use the brackets and the 1x2 slope in order to continue the front fender. Once we finish with the grill, all we really have left is the sides and the roof. Connect the grille and headlight assembly to the modified bricks from earlier. The sides are pretty easy to assemble. Just stack some plates, slopes. We're going to use different shades of green tiles to continue that digital camo pattern from the front. And of course, repeat this process in reverse for the other side. It's kind of funny, even here, a lot of the different shades of green, quote-unquote, design came from me not having enough pieces in the right color. This whole build is kind of a happy accident. Attach the sides to the modified bricks from earlier. For the exhaust pipes, I just used some Technic connectors, pins, and lift arms. It's pretty simple, but I think it looks pretty good. And now on to the final part of the build, the roof. We're going to start off by stacking some kind of small plates. In order to continue the kind of green striped pattern from the rest of the build, it's a little finicky at first, but once you attach all the plates and tile it off, it holds together just fine. Again, I really like the different shades of green on the build. I think it really breaks up the kind of monotony of just having a single color, and it adds a lot of visual interest to the whole thing. We're going to use these 1x1 translucent orange tiles to represent the reflectors on top. I've been told that I've done this wrong and that there should be 5, but I cannot figure out how to fit 5 of those on top of this roof. If you have any suggestions or ideas, I'd love to hear them. We're going to add some slopes and wedge pieces to the top to add a little bit more height. Smooth out the roof using different shades of green tiles. Only a handful more pieces and we're done. And now we're going to add the air horns. Again, I've been told there should be 5. And that's it. What do you think? Do you want to see a video of the transporter as well? Or do you want to see a video of one of the other trucks? Either way, let me know down in the comments what you thought. Don't forget to check out Brickhead07 and Speed HUD Creations MOCs on Rebreakable. And also consider joining my Patreon page. There's lots of free instructions over there, and access to hundreds of instructions if you're on one of the higher tiers. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching the video, and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, especially Stan, Zach, and Wes. I'll see you in the next one.